Hi, Xavier here, and I've put together 2 or 3 clips that I'm trying to merge together, and it's all to do with Deadwood, Jins, Shari, hollows, Tanuki, all sorts of stuff. Been meaning to do it for a couple of months, but just waiting for the weather to dry out, to be honest, and for there actually to be the right time to do it. And we're just moving into the sort of mid part of summer, where hopefully we get a lot of dry weather, which we've had. And as I say that, I can see raindrops falling, but not on my head. I'm certainly not going to sing that. But yeah, so I'm just about to throw you over to an impromptu gin that I made on my cloud larch. So we'll phase over to that in a second. And a lot of time with gins, that's exactly what it is. It's you're deciding whether to remove a branch or not. And then you think, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll do what all the other big keen bonsai experts do. I'll turn it into a gin. And before you do that, it's often a good idea to ask yourself, does this tree naturally have a gin, or will creating this feature actually make it just to look a bit odd? And again, that's something I'm just as guilty of doing as I'm sure many of others of us are. Generally, we tend to do gins on the hardwood trees, so that's why you'll see them on junipers, a lot of those, and also yew, another good solid hardwood. And there are other examples of hardwood trees we see it, and in nature you'll see it. Softer wood, deciduous stuff, it's called softer wood because it rots. And so often, if you go to the trouble of creating a gin and getting it all beautiful, the last thing you need is the wood to rot, which is what happens in nature. It may be that I may actually remove that. It could be a decision I make. Because you know what? A decision's been made. There we go. Well, I didn't know I was going to make that decision. So if you were going to do a gin, see if it works on larch. So you squeeze, and you should be able to just, with your gin pliers, remove, and it's just squeezing, and that just separates all that cambium from what will be the soft or the heartwood, and it just comes away. Comes away in your hand, Gov. That's what your gin pliers are for. And as I say, the definition of a gin is a dead branch, and this being a branch, we're now killing it. Squeezing, and it comes off so easy. That's why this time of the year is just brilliant for doing this work if you're going to. Okay. So this is my table of discovery. I'm not an expert by any means on the use of tools for doing deadwood, but it is an area like wiring that you want to practice. And to be honest, I did my first practicing on old stumps. I did one on an old chair leg, and just seeing how the tools work. Because to do your deadwood, first of all, we've all seen it, we will have some sort of rotary tool. Put your attachments in. That's a sanding attachment. My non-standard safety glasses, and then it's either sanding bits, or you've got all sorts of tools, and you can buy special knobbling or nibbling tools for bonsai for this very purpose. All sorts of stuff here. And I'm not going to go through them all individually. There's round things, there's pointy things, there's these things, and there's just things. And using all those either through your own practice and mistakes, you can create great effects on your gins. And I've definitely done a few bits and pieces. But for today I just wanted to really show you, this is the tool you'd use, and before you start on your tree, find yourself a bit of wood and just see, one, how it feels in your hand when you actually use a rotary tool. See how sensitive it is, see how much you need to be able to grip it, and whether you get bounced back, all sorts. What you don't want to do is end up hitting your tree with this, and before you know it, your tree's gone cartwheeling over your back, and you're on your backside too, and this thing is goodness knows where, and you've got no branches and no tree. So, this is a tool. You've already seen the Jin pliers, and I'm already going to say now, because I know that Tony's already got a video out this morning. Well done, mate. This is the one tool that I tend to use for wiring and all sorts of things like that, and tying trees down, but actually is your Jin pliers. And it's these that I used to take all the bark off that. Very, very versatile. You've also got the Mark 1 Jin pliers, just as versatile, and I use those just as much. And the needle nose versatile Jin pliers, which I can't find at the moment. As you get more serious about it, you can start getting some woodworking tools, or dental tools where you can scrape out hollows, you can scrape out little bits of bark or bits that are caught in between, and there are various different tools and implements like that. So, little woodworking set, and then can't beat the good old-fashioned knife, and with that you can use it to split the ends and stuff like that. Key thing here is that whenever you create your gins, and we're going to move over to there right now. Yeah, so we've got an example of gin here that I did yesterday on the larch, and you can already see there's two different colours of here. There's still the resinous sap that's left from behind the bark, and before we do anything, we can either use a methylated spirit or a white spirit to try and remove that. You can use a sander. Seems very clumsy, I know, but the key there is before you do any more work on this, you want to get rid of all that. You can also, if you haven't got white spirit and you're searching for tools, a bit like if you're doing an air layer, you can scrape it all off. And in many ways, that's also a good way of creating some good graduations and interesting scoring along the branch. It's a lot rougher and probably looks a little bit more natural. And I've just got a spider that's blasted well landed in my head. Would you believe that? Come on, Incy Wincy. Go and Incy Wince somewhere else. Yeah, so, and to be fair, this is one of my preferred methods. I've got a lot more control. Obviously you don't want to be cutting your hand like that. And you can scrape it all off. And to be fair, if you use the sanding tool, I mean, if you have a look on that, just by doing that little bit, I've already used quite a bit of the sanding block on that. So I'm quite like to do this way, and I'll keep working my way around it with this until I have got all of that remaining, well, it's basically the cambium layer, the remaining cambium tissue away, and then I might start trying to split. Careful of that thumb there, and just split the ends a bit. Again, just pull away, because in nature the wind and those giant ginning tools that nature has will all be creating natural, unnatural rips and affairs on it. Yeah, and so you can work your way around all of that with that. So I'm going to do that now. And then I'll come back to you for the final part, which is the easiest part, should be, which is the sulphur solution. There's lots of different sulphur solutions, but all of them have one thing in common: they smell like sulphur, which I think, as we all know, is rotten eggs, and you've got to give them a good shake. You need a good brush, and you need something to hold underneath, otherwise it's going to drip everywhere. So I'll come back to you once I've got that all cleaned down. Okay, so we're pretty well got all that that soggy stuff off, so we don't need to worry about any gaps being bridged here, and a successful air layer on this one. I don't see anything growing from this, and to be honest, at the moment it's probably quite long and ugly. Trying to split these sometimes, just put lots of, you've got to be really careful. Clearly I'm working with a blade. Just trying to split and rip it off. And the thing about Deadwood is, you know, by all means, and Nigel will definitely tell you about things like this, study pictures. Have a look what it looks like in the wild before you start creating something that actually isn't that. After I've done that, I may want to keep it rough, or I may want to sand a few bits down. See the way I flinched? That's because if you put your finger somewhere near the top there while it's rotating, it's actually quite hot. Amazing that. It's like putting your finger in an oven. That's hot too. Now obviously there are loads of different attachments you use, but the key is you want to get rid of all that loose stuff, because when you come and do your sulphur solution, which I'm about to do I think, I tend to do Deadwood over a number of sessions, so this is an initial part. Often I'll actually let the wood dry out completely, but we're actually going to have a week of rain, so I want to get some sulphur on there now. And again, with sulphur you'll find it could need quite a number of coats, so good shake. And I've often found with this, depending on what brands you get, gives you completely different results, protecting both the pot. There we go. And I know there are different effects you can get, so often you'll use a wire wheel to rough up and then sand and rough up and sand. I've done that with my junipers, and it does create a really interesting effect. What you can actually do is you run your blade up and down on line and create lines, so that actually opens up, and you know that effect you get when you see the woods cracked open, and that's how we get this. So we just create these score lines. So you do it with cutters, and in here there's a little cutting rotary wheels, so there's all sorts of ways you can do it. So I'm happy with that. And just brush it on, and I'll find that definitely you need to 3 or 4 coats. I find often I'll put this on and then wait, put another coat on probably tomorrow. I'm sure you can do it quicker than that, but it's a bit like normal paint, you know, give it a chance for it to actually get into the wood and start the staining process. Tell it's working because it's looking very yellow to begin with, and obviously you don't want to get it on the live tissue, because it's not very good for it, to be honest. Wonder why. And over time what should happen is it bleaches more and more white. Certainly it looks very false right now, but well, it is false. I just made it, isn't it? Okay, so that's had one coat. Oh, I missed. Where's my tools? I missed that. Didn't miss any more, did I? No. Okay. I mean, it's nothing exciting to look at, but that's the beginning of the Deadwood. Oh, sorry, the beginning of the gin. And the interesting thing is over time you can go back at it again and again and again, and can create a really good effect. I've just shown you the gin and how easy it is to actually produce and to do it with your gin pliers. Well, to be honest, any pliers. And then I thought I showed you what a shari was, and I said I'd explain that. Now, a shari is literally dead wood on the actual trunk, this being the trunk itself. So we'll zone in and show you shari, and then also using the same larch. It's not the best example, but I'll explain about a live vein, and then we'll just talk about deadwood in general. Unlike dead beets, deadwood. So here we go. Another thing to consider is deciduous trees, and in particular hollows, and perhaps why deadwood and stuff like that on deciduous trees isn't such a great idea, although you do see it. That indeed is a hollow, and as the softer deciduous wood rots, it slowly rots out, inside out. So you've still got the live cambium going around the trunk, but slowly it's rotting on the inside. And for a tree like that, that's something that actually we probably want to repair, and I might talk about that at a later stage. You can either use putties, resins, but the key thing there is to make sure it's dry and cleaned out inside. And probably what I'm going to do in a few weeks is from here is carve down until I get to the base of wherever the hollow goes to, and open it out, scoop it all out so I get all the rotten flesh away, and then either use a wood hardener or a putty or a sealant of some sort, so that I can try and preserve it for as long as possible. Hi, on this juniper, another example of a gin, which I sort of created in part using the gin pliers, and then as a year or so later would have got hardened, I got a Dremel, a little drill with grinding and cutting wheels and attachments, and in the bonsai world there's loads of them, and you'll all know that. But you just slowly create different effects, either sanding down or roughing up. Now the live vein here, if you look to the edge here, where the tissue's folded over on itself to try and heal and keep the rest of this moving, that's all the live part, the same as I showed you with the larch. And with some trees you can actually see where the swollen is, where the vein will run up the tree, and you can see to which branches. Now, this is still a relatively young tree, so as yet very hard to see any differentiation of where such live veins are. And you find with a lot of trees the roots feed a certain part of the branches, so you sometimes have to be very careful about removing tissue or bark from a tree, because you may inadvertently kill a branch that it never occurred to that was being fed through that part. In this example, which you've seen before, this is me slowly reducing the amount of foliage on a live juniper until eventually it'll turn into a proper deadwood juniper, i.e. all dead. Again, gin here, and then what's happened here is I was starting to try and practice with shari and live vein, and to be fair I'll tell you how they get it, but I'm going to do it. This is all shari because it's the main trunk, then there's gins coming off it, and then here we'll actually be incorporating the live vein. This side of the tree is all live and probably runs up here and feeds there. And there's another little accidental shari here, and this is one of the ways that it is actually created. So in this instance, from the gins there, coming up, there's another little shari here, and then that leads off into a gin. But up here, where the wire's been on too long, it's actually bitten all the way back down to the central core, the dead wood, the hardwood of the tree, the softwood, sapwood, whichever one, but anyway, it's not driftwood. And then folding it around it is the living part of the flesh of the tissue, and that is going to wind its way around the tree. So that would be a live vein, and they're called things like live vein reductions, and that's just simply a case of where they're actually removing more and more of that to expose more of the dead part of the tree. And there's a lot of techniques on it, but one of the ways you can create these live veins on a juniper is you wrap the wire all around it, and you leave it until it bites in just like that has, and then you will slowly unwrap it all, and you'll have this live vein going rotating all the way around the tree, slowly up and around the different branches, and that's one of the techniques for creating it. So that's Lime Vein, Shari and Jins. So with that, let's moving on from Jin and Shari and Lime Veins to something much more interesting, exciting. Driftwood. This is Orkney Island driftwood. It's not your run-of-the-mill stuff, and it is exactly what they say it is. From this, you can create something called Tanuki, and in essence, I've never done it, but it's something I've got on my mind. Is you use the driftwood, which can be made to look, well, looks like the trunk of a long dead tree. You fix it or attach it into a pot or whatever planting tin you have, and then you might use a young whip like this, Chinese elm, and literally wrap it around the driftwood. And to make it more natural, what you'll actually do is use a Dremel or something. You can actually carve a channel and actually attach the living whip inside it, and that's something I am going to try at a different time. And then as the tree expands, it grips the channel until eventually it grows around and it becomes part of the tree. So there's some examples of driftwood and what you can do to create your own Tanuki. Again, juniper, it tends to be something they use because it's so green as a whip, I think. They just use juniper. I'm sure someone will say why they use juniper more, but I think it's more natural on deadwood because most junipers, because of the nature of the wood, will go back to deadwood. If you had deadwood with some of the deciduous trees that never do it, it would look very, very unnatural. Let me think of something. So I don't think you'd have a Tanuki azalea, put it that way. And the final bit of deadwood I'd like to talk about is that. It took me a long time to create this, and to be honest, to put a value on it would be difficult. You know, it may have started off as a 7-pound Scots pine sapling, but over a period of several years and quite a lot of work, I've actually managed to create this, which is, I think, I'm not sure what the Japanese word for is or the Chinese word for it is, but for me, well, it's called, no, I won't say that word actually, I know who will, he's probably said it. But yeah, so that's deadwood. So for that, all I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about the final gin. It's more difficult, but it certainly gives you the most satisfaction when you get this gin just right. Normally, they're a bit of lime, a little touch of lemon maybe, Gordon's definitely, and just 1 or 2 ice cubes, although some people don't go for it, and then it's just chin chin. Didn't have any gin because my daughter's drunk it all. So, hopefully, as a beginner, you've got a feel at least now for what people are talking when they talk about the different talks of deadwood. And really today was all about telling you not to be scared. In the same way I try and encourage you to practice wiring and actually embrace it as another means and skill. It's the same with working on gins and stuff like that. You've seen me do a gin on a larch, and you saw how easy it works. You haven't got gin pliers? Just get some pliers. Find a neighbour's tree and see how quickly you can remove all the bark. No, I didn't recommend that. I used to do that as a kid. Yeah, you don't need all these tools, but don't be scared. There's amazing. There's loads of things you can work on, and literally, if you find a tree in the back garden and get to one of the branches somewhere, and just have a little practice on one of the little smaller branches or shoots. So, I think the next time we're going to deal with this subject will probably be in another week or two. I really want the weather to dry out my silver birch, and that hollow I am going to be tackling, and I have taken some advice on it, which I'll talk to you more about in that video. So, from Xavier at the top of the garden by his back door, with his sulphur and his Dremel. That's the word I was thinking of, his Dremel, which is actually a name. It's a rotary tool. There's some really good high-powered bonsai ones of these that I think about 130 odd quid, 34.99. His brush, I'm going to go do my brush out, go and say hello to my panda on my larch. So from me, it's cheers.